Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to people around the world. This is Martin Hubel, the host of the DB2Night Show. And today we've got special guests from IBM talking about the new DB2 Graph and training in a machine learning model using DB2 on cloud. Tanmay Sinha and Nidhi Bhatnagar. How are you doing today?
Great. Thanks again for having us, Martin.
We're here to help promote DB2 and get the message out to the DB2 community, and we appreciate you taking time to share your information with us. So let me move through and get this housekeeping out of the way. Here's our social media page as always. Follow our hashtag DB2Night on Twitter. That's the best way to keep up on things. And also the replay blog points you to our YouTube channel where you can now watch things via YouTube rather than having to download the sessions. As always, we appreciate our presenters providing a PDF of the slides. If you can do that, that would be great. We'll share those along with everything else that we give for the show. There's our disclaimer, our copyright information, and we're recording the show. I used to read that out, but I'm kind of beyond that, I guess. So there we go. And just some quick announcements. This is our final show for this year, and we have replays. We invite you to go back and revisit any of the old shows that you, some old favorites or some shows you might have missed. And our season-ending show for DB2 on ZOS will be Tony Andrews of Themis speaking on his favorite DB2 performance and optimization features in versions 9 through 12. Then we'll be off for the summer. I'm pleased to report that we will actually be running a show next year, or we will be doing the DB2Night Show again. So we'll see you in September. And as always, DBI, our founding sponsor of the DB2Night Show, has a demo available off their website. If you follow that link, you can see how you can quickly tune your database, save your staff time and money, and be able to report on your service levels. There's our winner, is Stefan Kolov of SSC INC. He'll be getting a gift certificate for watching last week's show, or 2 weeks ago rather, the last show. And here's our sponsors, mainly DBI and yours truly. I'm going a little quicker today just to make sure I give you enough time. And then I also want to make sure we get in our polling questions. So as always, we have standard questions we like to ask people. One is, what versions of DB2 are you currently running? I've kind of broken this up a little bit to encourage people to mention if they put any of the mod levels on, 11.5.3 or higher and that type of thing, just to see where people are. And I've allowed people to choose more than one, so then people are doing just that. So people have voted fairly quickly. I'll share that. And it's nice to see that 40% of our audience has 11.5.3 or higher in, as well as the other versions there. We'll hide that and move on to the next question. How many databases would you say that you manage, that your company has in various levels? This is always a fun question. It also shows you just how busy people are in the DB2 LUW community. And it's wild to see that, isn't it? And yep, we're at 80% voting, and we'll share that. And we see there's the majority of our audience today is managing 10 to 100 databases, which is interesting to see. That seems to be a fairly popular number. And the next one is, what type of environments do you use for DB2? In terms of using traditional software, some cloud, some containers, and other things of that nature. And And people are starting to embrace cloud a little bit. Some people are doing containers. That's interesting to see and good to know. People are voting a little slower on this one. There's a lot more to read, I guess. A few more seconds and I'll close this off. All right, let's have a look at that answer. Half of our audience is still on traditional software installs, and some people are trying clouds and containers. So, oops, I guess I'm looking at it now. It's a matter of which things do you click and which things do you see going on. There we are. We'll hide that. Move on to the question specific for today is, have you tried the DB2 operator on Red Hat Marketplace? And giving people a chance to vote on this. And we're still waiting. I'm waiting to see if I got one yes, but we're at the 40-second mark, so I'm going to close that off and share that no one has tried that yet out of our audience. So there. And one last, and this one is, which workloads would you consider moving to DB2 on cloud? And I tried to give this a fair bit of a range here. Just to see what people are saying here. And again, I gave people a fair bit of scope in terms of what they could choose. And we'll close that off and share the results there. And this shows more analytics on cloud than OLTP, but just another interesting statistic. I hope you found those results helpful in organizing the presentation today. So with that, I'll hide that. And that should put me back to the screen, in which case I can now move on. And I'm now, Tanmay, I'm ready to hand things over to you if you're ready to take control.
Thank you. Thank you, Martin.
All right, you should have a little thing to click on your screen there. Kind of interesting. I should have had your picture up there as your presenter, but I put Nidhi's picture up there. She's better looking anyway.
Absolutely. Let me. I'm just trying to make sure I share.
Yeah. You should have a button right in the middle of your screen.
Yes, I'm just getting there. I apologize. It seems like this specific tool did not have it.
The joys of doing live shows. It looks like you rejoined. You rejoined as presenter.
Yes.
Yes. But I am not. I'm not seeing your screen yet.
Can you make me a presenter once again?
Yes.
I apologize, folks.
No worries. All right. A sec. I'll take it back and make myself the presenter again. And Now we'll try making you the presenter again and see how this works. There we are. Should have a new message.
Perfect.
There. Yeah.
Okay, so you should see my screen now.
Perfect. I'm seeing it. Great news. So what I'm going to do is
Great.
I'm going to mute myself for the moment, and I'll watch the message queue, but I'll let you take it away, and we'll go carry on.
Great. Thank you. Thanks again, Martin. Thanks again, folks, for joining. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tanmay Sinha. I lead the product management team for our DB2 LUW business here at IBM. With me, I have Nidhi, who is my lead product manager for our various components of DB2, including our DB2 on Cloud Pak for Data. So now in my previous role, I oversaw launch of our Cloud Pak for Data platform. So naturally, I'm sort of the best person here, right? So talk about how these things are working together and what are some of the benefits you can get. But again, before I begin, I just want to thank everyone for your time. And sort of without sort of further ado, let's get started on some of the things I want to talk about. So I don't want to. Some of you may have seen parts of this presentation. I had a webinar. If you're interested, feel free to check that out. This specific session, I want to focus on the things that I had up front. First one being the using the new DB2 Graph functionality, analyzing your data, existing data in DB2 using DB2 Graph. So I have a demo for you to see that. And then the second one is going to be how I was able to create a machine learning model starting from my DB2 data in entirely on our IBM Cloud Platform without using all the free tiers and free plans that you have. So it's something you can go ahead and try it out yourself. So let's start with some sort of basic
Tanmay, your screen has gone blank. Are you on the right monitor when you went into presentation mode?
I am. There you go.
Oh, yeah, there we are now. Thanks.
Is it moving now?
It is moving now. That's great.
Great. So it seems like it was stuck on the slide itself. Anyway, so I think most of the folks on the call already know what DB2 and sort of all the various modes that are all about. The new kid on the block for DB2 is Graph, and at the core, as Graph is essentially a structure that is composed of vertices and edges, and where sort of vertices denote your discrete objects like a person, place, or an event, and the edges would denote relationships that exist between these. So the idea here is that let me make sure I share the right thing. Okay, that a person may be related to another person, and the relationship would be represented by the edge. So they themselves would then be represented by different vertices. So the whole point is that this is essentially giving you a new way of interacting with your existing DB2 data. And the graph, the core graph engine or core graph update has been part of the release since 11.5.5. 11.5.4, if I'm not mistaken, in tech preview, but with 11.5.6, which is coming out later this month, this will be generally available and will come with a really cool UI, which I cannot wait to show you more of. So in addition to the use cases, I always want to make sure that folks are aware, at least this core community of DB2 users are aware of all the options that they have available when it comes to deployment. We always have our standard deployment on premise, as you would traditionally run the database on a set of servers or VMs. Now, there's a tremendous amount of configurability that can be customized to the exact requirements. Now, it does come, however, with a higher cost of administration, and you're required to sort of plan and make sure that you're able to scale up the deployment. On the other end are the fully managed DB2 and our warehouse on cloud services. Now, these are highly scalable, cost-effective, but do come with fewer configuration options, as of course they're, as with any SaaS service, they're built to handle the lowest common denominator that you have. So, and now the containerized deployment that we introduced a couple of years ago are somewhere in the middle. Now, they give you the configurability, scalability benefits of a fully managed service, but they do end up costing a tad more because the administration is still handled by the customer or a partner if you choose to go down that route. As you will see some of the examples, they are extremely cost efficient and do retain a lot of cloud native benefits that you would get on a fully managed service because they're essentially that. They're essentially bringing the containerized deployment that we've had on the fully managed services down to a level where you can manage it or the customer can manage it. So just a few quick things I want to talk about that have been introduced in the recent past few months. Starting with replication for cloud offerings. Now, there are several reasons that can lead to interruption in business operations. Could be due to human error, software defects, disk, system failure, subsystem failures, power grid outage, whatever it might be, many more. Now, there could also be planned maintenance, such as upgrades, migrations, configurations. Now, the always on world we live in, that off hour window can be increasingly non-existent. So these maintenance become essentially a careful and coordinated dance of sorts that require planning and really quick execution. Now, and you may also need to sort of revert at any point, go and if something goes wrong, you may have to revert. So to address the challenge of continuous availability based on IBM's QREP capture technology, we introduced we've introduced that to our continuous availability to our DB2 warehouse on cloud. Now what does that mean? It means that customers that are using DB2 warehouse on cloud can also have the always on active configuration just with a few clicks. And what's more, that this can even be set up across different cloud providers. So you can have a replication going from IBM Cloud to AWS if you want to have even more of that reliability. Now, when it comes to sort of our OLTP and the DB2 on cloud capabilities, I want to mention our disaster recovery, the geo-replicated disaster recovery, which introduced earlier this year. So what you might know that disaster recovery really involves two key things. There is a tolerance, which is all about making sure that the databases are deployed far away from each other, or in the same or different cities, and they monitor each other's health status, and they can switch over when something bad happens, when failure happens. And then backup is exactly what it sounds. It's making sure that you have one or more copies of data to ensure after you recover, nothing is lost. So with the introduction of geo-replicated disaster recovery nodes, now users on DB2 on cloud are able to extend that availability to an entirely different region by adding on-demand disaster recovery nodes. Now, what this ensures is that in the unlikely event of an outage in the primary region, for example, your primary instance could be Dallas, your DR could be in London, you still have access to your data. Now, you can combine this with our high availability plans, which essentially delivers reliability within the same region. So even if something goes down, your secondary will come back up, and both of these are available right now. Now, moving on to the things that I want to focus the most on. That was sort of just a quick update on what we have done, what we've been doing in the cloud side. The last item that I want to highlight is DB2 Graph. I mentioned at the core, graph is a structure composed of vertices and edges. One of them denotes, vertices denote sort of distinct objects, and then edges denotes the relationships between those objects. So to keep examples of sort of relationships in mind, my daughter and I would be vertices as human beings, and the edge that she's my daughter would be the relation that we have between us. So now here is the really important point I want to make. If you're an existing DB2 customer on 11.5, 11.5 onwards, this is an enterprise-grade in-database graph solution that will be available to you as soon as you update. No extra charge, no additional purchase. It is included for everyone who is on the latest versions of DB2, which I saw there quite a good chunk of folks. Given our commitment to open source, we went with the Apache Tinkerpop framework, if you're familiar with it, and fully support the most popular sort of Gremlin query language to go and sort of go after querying these graphs. There are additional optimization to improve performance, specifically on DB2 from Tinkerpop. Now, what's most exciting for me here is that there is no change required to your DB2 data. And let me say it again, you don't have to change anything in your DB2. Your application can keep running uninterrupted. Data is fetched at the time of execution, making sure you always have the latest and greatest real-time updates. So without, let me spend a few minutes. I'm going to switch to brief demo of how the DB2 Graph UI looks like, and then before moving on to the next topic. Okay. So in this scenario, you're a data scientist at a health insurance company, and you're looking at you're looking to investigate insurance claims for fraud, and you just received, your machine learning model has given you some indication that there might be a claim that is looking suspicious. So as someone looking into this is my responsibility to try and find out what might be happening here. Okay, so hopefully you can see the graph UI now. I'm going to refresh just to make sure, and yes, of course I was logged out. So let me log back in. And again, this is available for you in early access, I believe, right now, and you can, of course, with 11.5.6, it'll be part of the product. So let me make sure that I am on the right link. Sorry, I am. Okay. Live demo, folks. Give me 1 minute when I'm trying to figure out why my sorry. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm going to the right link here for you. So So my apologies. Let me come back to this one after I'm going to hand it off to Martin for a few minutes. This was something I was just testing out. I'm not sure what's happening. Let me check so give me just a couple of minutes, and then in the meantime, I'll let Martin go through our promotions that we have for DBI. So again, I apologize. Let me try and fix that rather quickly.
Let me unmute myself before I start talking. Even a better thing. We'll just use this break to show the DBI information. And I have a little video here that should be showing up, and should be running now.
Only this one at this time. I can see that I'm getting a lot of advice here. I can click on recommendations. I can see all the different issues that this database has. I can see also what recommendations DBI provides to you to fix this issue. We look at almost more than 100, 150 different things in the database and try to give you advice on what the problem will be and what kind of things you can fix, can change to make this database perform better. Also, we can show you, for instance, tables with missing indices. You don't want to have tables with missing indices, especially if they have a large number of rows. This one doesn't have it, so maybe it's okay. I can look at indices with low cardinality, from those. I can look at indices that are not used. Indices take a lot of space. And so you can look at those indices, and in the future we will allow you to do drop index analysis that will go and look at the entire, all the statements that we're running and see which ones, if any, will be affected by dropping that index. If you have any embedded objects, will be listed here. Any tables that need reorging. Many companies don't have the luxury to do reorg every day or every week. So you might want to look at the tables that need organization and work on those. Same thing, similar with indices. Also, any indices that need organizing will be listed. So this is a very quick way to look at the health of your database and make changes that will have instant improvement to the health and performance of your database. Thank you for watching.
Apparently there was a little bit of echo in there. That might have been that I turned my own microphone on. I probably shouldn't have done that. Thanks for the feedback. I'll make sure I don't do that in the future. Probably my fault. Tanmay, if you're ready,
Yep, I'm back. I'm back on. Apologies for the hiccup.
That way we know it's live.
Yes, exactly. So hopefully it's showing back up, so you're able to see the graph. So great. So here's the typical sort of, here's what you would see when you log into the graph and you have all the right access. I'm not going to create a new connection. I already have it. It's just a standard DB2 database that I have connected my graph UI with. And then what I'll do is I'll go and work with graph here. So the first thing I will do is start by adding a graph. I'll use the connection that I have, and then this is the graph editor UI. So this is where you're actually going to define and create the edges and make sure that you're defining the table connections and everything in the way you would want it to. But that's too much work. I'm lazy. We also have the ability to essentially drag and drop these tables, and these are all the schemas that we have with tables, onto the editor, and that will try to do something smart and then try to make these connections for you automatically, the way it has done right now. So again, if you remember before the start of the demo, what I talked about, this is sort of a insurance fraud investigation case. So all I did was essentially drag the schema on here, and there's the connections are made based on the entries we have. So I'm going to do is save this graph. Let's say, okay, and it'll ask me to, okay, now I can actually go and start my analysis. And that's where it takes you to a query window where you can start asking, start analyzing the data. So now that you're here, so let's start our investigation by sort of taking a look at the details of the policyholder for a claim. For example, sort of we can find what types of claim they have submitted in the past. So remember, I don't know if you remember, but we knew the claim ID. The claim ID was C4377. So I'm going to copy and paste some of the queries here. So this is basically me trying to look at the graph. Again, this is all based on a DB2 table, DB2 schema that I just dragged in. It's looking at the specific claim ID and try to find sort of what claims that they have filed. Clearly, this patient has filed a bunch of claims. Now, it doesn't really help me. This doesn't help me very much what diseases and things like that are. So I can select this. I can change the view to show me the actual disease name, so which is helpful, more readable. I can find out what this person has filed claims for. So a bunch of things. You can see sort of different types of diabetes, a bunch of claims, and then some mental disorder and a few other things. So we're basically asking in this query, we're asking for all the vertices from the demo claim table, filtering to that specific claim ID. So just to get us started. And we've managed to sort of clean it up a little bit for us to visualize it, to make it more readable, to understand what these diseases are. And we can see here that this person is associated with a lot of different diseases, which may be one of the reasons why their latest claim was flagged as being suspicious. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're fraudulent, but it could be a reason why the machine learning model went back. Now, let's dig a little bit deeper. So the next query here that I have is starting to dig deeper into the actual person, so the patient himself or herself who filed this claim. So we're filtering down to the specific claim, and now we're asking which doctors they visited and which service provider these doctors work for. So once again, we're asking Gremlin to get us the path and find the answer to the query. Let's see what that comes back with. I'm going to run the query, and then one of the things, hopefully, you're able to see even on the performance and just the UI. Again, this is all running live on one of our VMs. So this is quite indicative of how easy and performant this is. Now, let's change sort of who this service provider is. I think this isn't very helpful, but if you can see here, each one of these they have filed a claim with a different person. They have filed a claim through a different service provider, which does look a little bit suspicious. Like typically, you would not go to a different doctor every time. You would remain with one physician or one service provider, and you will use that. Now, we can see that, and also we can see who this person is. So I'm going to try to find their name. So this person, his name is Curtis, has filed a number of claims, and then for each one of them, they have visited a different doctor. So again, very suspicious behavior. As you can see, in this example, we're going from the patient itself to the claim that they filed, and then zoom out to the service provider that they filed it with, and the actual service that they had with that with that provider. Okay, so what if we so in the existing graph, sort of, this is very complicated to do because you're injecting. In this case, you're going from a claim to who is in charge of it to the actual service, because that's how the graph is defined. Now, what if you wanted to customize this view by going directly from the claim to the actual service? Now, in the existing graph database, this is very complicated because it requires you to inject new edges that directly connect claim and service. And but also it needs for you to change the underlying data, because and that quickly becomes very hard to maintain, very, very problematic, and sort of difficult to manage. Well, but that's not the case with DB2. Let's take a look how easy it is to handle that with the DB2 Graph UI. So I'm going to go back to my graph editor. So I will edit the graph, and I'll open this up for edit, and basically I am going to, if you remember, right, we're talking about going from claim to service. Right now, this goes the claim. There is no direct link between claim and service. The link from claim goes from claim to who is in charge and to the service they provided. In this case, I can just drag and drop. Select the schema that I'm on, so the demo, the table that I am using here to make that connection, which is service of claim. And essentially, I'm creating manually creating an edge here to simplify the same path that we saw earlier. And I would specify the columns, and that's really it. So with just that, I have actually created an edge between the claim and the service, so that I can go directly from these claims that were filed over to service without changing anything in the underlying database, without making any edits or any insertions or anything like that to my actual data. So I'm just going to override this for simplicity, and then we'll move on. So what I'll do now is I'll issue another query, but this time I'll go straight from the person who has from the claim to the service that they have filed. So there you go. So you're actually looking at, you're skipping the service provider, which was originally in the query that required you to go from the claim to the service. You're able to go directly from there because of the edge we just created. Now, not only we don't need to worry about sort of maintaining this data, because DB2 handles it for us automatically. If we decided we don't want this custom view, it's as simple as just deleting that edge, and it'll be, you don't need to go in and actually clean up the graph. You don't need to make any changes to the data, nothing like that. It's just, it'll automatically understand and adjust, sort of what changes there are. Now, in this case, we're starting with our identified claim, which is this one, and then going to the service that they asked for. Now, let's see Now let's dig a little bit. The last thing I want to show is let's dig a little bit deeper on the individual itself and try to see how their social connections and their sort of surrounding capabilities or surrounding sort of connections interact. So let's see that. So in this case, it is showing me all the connections that they have. So this is the person Curtis, like they're connected to these folks in different because of different reasons. Now, one of the things, this isn't very useful in the sense like it's not telling me much. It's just like, okay, these are the people they're connected to. But one of the things that's interesting when you look at each one of these nodes, like for example, in this case, I'm looking at Mary. It says Mary has a risk score of 5, or Jenna has a risk score of 7. So that can be quite interesting. And then that is something that I want to dig a little bit more deeper to see what I want to visualize. So what I would do is essentially click the Find Insights button. And what I want to do here is really add an insight that that says if the policyholder, their relative size by risk score. So how big at a risk they are. So there you go. So based on their risk score, this has given me some very interesting insights right away. Like these are this person's risk score is 96. Mark is at 85. So this individual is connected to others in his social network who are at a very high risk score. The other thing we can do is I'll add another insight to sort of color code this and make this a little bit more visually. So if basically they're if they're at a high risk greater than or equal to 1, basically if they're at a high risk, they have been flagged, and get a little bit more.
Hi there. I'm doing a webinar and Mom's in the shower.
Hey, Martin, looks like your mic is on. Okay. So this is the last thing I wanted to show in the demo, where now I have not only changed the relative sizing of the entries in the graph, but I'm also able to visualize very quickly the high risk players that might be in his network. And just looking at this very quickly, I can tell that there might actually be something fishy going on here, because this person is working, for some reason, is working with many different providers, which is unusual. And then also in his social connection has different others who have been flagged as high risk as well. So that's the demo. And again, I apologize for the hiccups earlier. This was something that I wanted to share with everyone. Let me go back to my PowerPoint here. And by the way, if you have questions, please feel free to post them. We have Nidhi who will be and Holly who can take them as we go along. Okay, so this is a good sort of transition point. Martin, anything that else that you want to bring up, or I should keep on going?
There's no questions in the queue for you, so please carry on. We're good on this side. Thanks.
Okay, great. So I'm not going to dive for data. just to give you an idea of what all this is about, and then focus more on how DB2 and Cloud Backward Data work together to help you actually train a machine learning model. So, what is Cloud Backward Data? Our approach, it's essentially our enterprise insights platform. Our approach starts with a simple idea: run anywhere. The platform can be co-located where your infrastructure investments have been made or will be made. So we support deploying Cloud Backward Data on top of every major cloud platform, including Google, Azure, AWS, IBM Cloud. And you can also deploy it on-premise in case you're developing sort of a hybrid cloud approach. Now, the way we support all this by layering this on top of Red Hat OpenShift. Now, we want to provide the flexibility for you to scale any infrastructure sort of using OpenShift as your underlying Kubernetes platform. Now, next, we introduce a common layer of integrated services that allow you to collect information from any repository, so databases, data lakes, warehouse, you name it. Our intention is for you to leave the data where it already resides, and leverage capabilities like data virtualization to sort of fold in multiple database schema into one. It also allows you to eliminate a bunch of ETL work, and you can join data from multiple clouds in a logical way. Now, once everything has been connected to, one of the services we have on the platform is around data organization and data cataloging. And then lastly, we bring data analysis as close as possible to the enterprise catalog, so we can provide sort of a sliding scale of data science capabilities that cater to varying skill levels. As you will see in the demo, I am on the very novice scale of that skill level, so as you'll see. So essentially, the users who are less skilled in data science can still make the best out of the data that they have available from our databases like DB2. So I'm going to briefly touch on just a couple of key capabilities of the platform. The most important and the relevant one is data virtualization. This is essentially, think of this as federation on steroids. It's our ability to view, access, manipulate, and analyze data without having the need to know or understand where its physical format and location, and without having to move or copy it. Now, traditionally we've used data federation. It's where sort of the underlying approach is defining access, authorization to logically sort of map and remote data sources and then query. Data virtualization, on the other hand, is any approach to data management that essentially allows application to retrieve and manipulate data without requiring the technical details. So, such as how it's formatted at the source or where it's physically located, and it can provide a single customer view. So it's extremely valuable for a data scientist or a data steward to have this view to go after a large data set. Now, how does it tie with DB2? Because this is all actually based on our DB engine, and it essentially converts all behind the scenes. It takes different data sources, could be coming from different clouds, and makes it, for the front end, makes it visible as a normal DB2 table. The next thing, again, this is something that I am personally very, very motivated about, and I'm really excited about how this sort of evolves. Is this technology around called Watson OpenScale, and this is where you start to get into the execution of machine learning models. So if you're starting from your database, training a machine learning model, how are you making sure that these models are trustworthy? And just a few days ago, there was a post that how biased AI models could be breaking the law. And this isn't really surprising if you consider like some egregious examples of this in the history, right? Most common one was a major technology firm that shall remain unnamed was using a machine learning model to filter out resumes. Now, seems harmless until someone noticed that the model was filtering out people of color, women, and people above a certain age. So now, I do not believe this was done intentionally and was promptly removed as soon as the trend was discovered, but the damage was done. Now, the AI models, the way I look at it is like the AI models are simply a mirror of our own biases. And as we start to rely more on these for everyday decisions, just training an AI model isn't enough. You need to be able to understand how these models are making decisions. We need to be able to trust these models. So as I see it, it boils down to three simple points. First, you need to have access to the data that you can trust and count on. Now, the data can be coming from anywhere. Your DB2 hosted on any sort of platform, be it Azure. But the important point to note is that you need to be able to trust that data that you're using to train these AI models. No more. And the second one is no more black boxes. Now, I think this is really the crux of what it means to be trustworthy. You need to be able to look into the inner workings of these systems. And now we simply cannot rely on the outcomes of these models without knowing what is driving those decisions. Now, going back to the resume example, if we were able to identify that age, gender, and ethnicity were playing a role in making the decision, making the hiring decision, we could adjust our training data to accommodate for that bias. So without knowing that, without the ability to look into that, we are sort of flying blind, and that's not good. And lastly, we need the ability to course correct. So when you do find an issue, you can actually update your training data and make sure that you're able to adjust it. So the whole point of this is that this technology that Cloud Pack for Data has with OpenScale essentially is an integrated tool that lets you monitor your AI models in production and provide explainability to sort of build the trust in these systems. So the reason I sort of digressed on that is just, again, as I said, this is something that personally I'm very fascinated by, how starting from database you're able to apply this, and it's something that I feel like we more and more people need to be aware in terms of as they start to expand into newer use cases with their data. Okay, just a quick time check. Do we? I believe I have. Sorry.
You have as much time as you need. You've got at least 5 minutes, if not 20 minutes, depending on what you need. Carry on.
Okay, I'm going to need about 10 to 15 minutes to go over the demo, but other than that, I think it looks like we should be still in time. I just don't want to run over.
No problem.
Okay, got it. Great. So let me go to just a couple of final slides, and you will see this in the demo. The idea is you start from a DB2 on cloud instance, and everything that I'm going to show you is something that I created using all the free accounts, and I'm able to go from my DB2 on cloud instance to training a machine learning model using Auto AI. And what is Auto AI, you ask? It's essentially it's essentially a capability built for non-data scientists like myself to create predictive models without writing a single line of code, all the way from database to training the model to actually deploying it and querying it through your web app. So I will try to close it with sort of a script, or actually show you how it would work in a REST API. So let me do that. Let me switch to the presentation or the demo once again. Okay, so hopefully you're back seeing my graph. Okay, So first things first, I'm going to need DB2. So I'm going to go to IBM Cloud. I do have a DB2 instance that I have provisioned. Again, this is on the presentation that I'll share. There are links to all of these free tiers that you can get started with. So I'm on IBM Cloud. I signed up for a free tier of DB2. So this is my free instance. It's there. It's up and running. And it'll just show you sort of details of the service. If you haven't tried it out, strongly encourage you to go and check it out. It's DB2 tuned for transactional workloads on cloud. And we will. I'm just opening the console here. As you can see, I can. This console, I have a table. I have a few tables that I created. So again, I'm not going to get into the details here, but essentially what I've done is I've created a table, uploaded some simple data from a CSV file, and I'm going to get access to it from my machine learning instances. Nothing too complex, nothing too fancy here. Again, you can explore, see what the tables and all that views are. Now the data here is a little bit interesting. So again, this is my personal instance. What I'm trying to do here, for the folks who don't know me, I love playing video games. So one of the things that I've been trying to experiment with is to see, can I predict the review score of a video game? And again, you can extrapolate, you can apply it to other things, but this is just something that personally that I've been messing around with. So the data here is what you will see is like a bunch of different stats about video games. So things like how long someone has played it, what is like when you want to go from a full completion of a game, how much time do you spend, or when you only go for like a minimal playthrough, how much time you spend and all that, right? There, how much sales has been there, and a bunch of different data about it. I mean, you can sort of you'll see that throughout. So that's the context, that's the data. Now that you know that there is some data uploaded in your DB2, let's go to Cloud Pak for Data. So again, this is the free instance of Cloud Pak for Data as a service. You can go and sign up for it. All we're doing with Cloud Pak for Data is essentially using the project concept. It's pulling in all the things you need to actually create a machine learning model in one place, and then actually go ahead and train it. So there are more things you can do with this, but I'm not going to go into details on this time around. So let me go to the projects here. Again, projects is sort of just a way where you bring everything together. I started putting to something just for the night show. So but let me remove this and show you again how that works. So I'm just going to remove everything that I added, and then I'll switch to the already baked cake and show you the results, just like any good demo. But I just want to show you how the process looks like. So when you're in a project, the first thing you want to do is you want to actually go and access your data. Now, where is your data? Your data is on DB2, running in a DB2 on cloud service. Now, I will say this, that it can be on any DB2 instance. I am just choosing to show you with DB2 on cloud. You can connect it to your DB2 as long as you provide access. So and everything that I'm showing, you can have this running in a on-premise environment outside of IBM Cloud. There is no, as long as you have Cloud Pak for Data, you can run it anywhere. So first thing I will do is I'll establish a connection, and it will already show me the instances that I already have. So I have, this is my free instance, the Z8 one, so I will use that. It gets all the information for me. Again, I'm not doing anything special here. I'm just following steps, and I'm able to add the DB2 connection. Now that I have a connection, I can actually add some data. And I'm going to select my connection here. So apologize if I'm moving a little bit quickly here. I will select my schema, and then I will select my table. And I'll just name this, and that's it. That's it's as simple as that. Now I actually have, and you can actually go and take a look at it. This data is DB2 on cloud coming into my project. I'm able to access, and it's a subset of it. It's 1,000 rows. It's not all of it, but I can even go ahead and do some basic refinement. So like basic cleansing of the data and all that. If I want, I can do it for the purposes of my model training. I am not going to do that. So let me go back. But the point here is that I now have data assets added to it. The next thing I would do is, if I'm a data scientist, which I don't claim to be, my next step would be to add a notebook. I would call it test, and I would create my notebook. And this can be in the environment of your choice. I'm using Python. You can have other open source formats, like you can have Jupyter. You can have essentially you have a lot of options that you want that you can use. So this is instantiating that notebook for me in the project. Now so again, it'll give you a tour and all that. So if you're interested, you can. What I want to show you here is that now I'm in actually a notebook. I can write my code. I can run the code and sort of start working on my model. I am not a data scientist here, so I'm going to show you something very simple that I really like in that that I'm able to do. That I'm able to very quickly essentially pull in different different tables from my data source that has been connected here. So you see, when I opened it, it's already connected to my data source. I have my DB2 database data set connected here, and from within my notebook, I have access to the entire table, and I can now start actually creating the model using this data to create a model. And all of this is coming from my DB2 on cloud instance, and that I have connected here. So again, the whole idea of showing this to you is that the workflow for a data scientist has been built into this, and you're able to use it from your existing DB2 on cloud instances. Now, for someone who does not know much about creating notebooks, like myself, what can I do? And this is where, as I was saying earlier, this is where Auto AI comes into play. So Auto AI is essentially going to help you take what you have, the data that you have, and associate, essentially, let me just set this up right now, and then I'll take you to the one where I already have it. Use that to quickly train a model without having to code anything. So let me try and see if I can get that to work. If not, we'll switch to the one that I already have. Let me switch to the one so that I don't take more time than needed. So in this case, I already have an auto AI experiment. I'm going to, it's the same concept. I'm going to create an experiment. So this is just to show you how the process works. And again, this is available to you. I'm just going to select my games from the project, and I don't want anything fancy. All I want to do is predict. So here's the key part. What it's asking me, what do you want to predict? I want to predict the review score, and I can configure other things. But in this case, just to show you, like, I can configure the types of predictions and other data sources and things like that. I can do that if I want to. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and say run my experiment, and that is it. That is the end of my work here. So it's actually going to go ahead and run a bunch of simulations and bunch of experiments, and at the end of it, it is going to come up with a recommendation of this is the best possible model that I could think of and that you can use. So this is how the cake is made. Now let me show you the actual baked cake. So when the model is completed, it will look something like this. So you will have, and it takes like 3 to 5 minutes. So I just don't want to take all of that time here, but it'll show you all the pipelines, all the process it went through using the data that we had in our DB2, and it'll come up with some recommendations of the model. So now the last part of the demo is I actually have that model that I trained from my games data running deployed. So let me open my workspace here, and don't ask me why it's called wine, because I was trying to predict, or there's another project where we're trying to predict the quality of the wine. So games and wine, and that's my, if you remember me, that's how you should. But here I have the games model deployed. And what I'm going to do here, and let me actually copy this so that, so it gives me some examples of how I can go ahead and incorporate it. This is deployed, so this is actually a REST API that's running and that I can query against, that I can embed in my application. So this is very much live, as I'll show you in just a minute. So what I can do is I can test here. So it takes in a bunch of inputs. It takes in a bunch of things like how long, as I said, right? How long does it take for a leisure completionist to complete a game, or what is the total length and all that, right? Again, it might be of interest to you, might not. I'm just showing you an example. In order to sort of simplify the data entering process, all I've done is basically put it in a JSON format. So again, shouldn't be surprising or shouldn't be anything unusual. I put a bunch of data in here, what the input fields are, what the values are, and I click predict. So there you go. So the prediction, again, it's basically telling me that based on everything that you told me, I would predict this game, which is in this case called Control on PlayStation 4, to be around 82 score. So that's sort of based on a very small data set, small subset of sort of samples and things like that. So that's the testing environment. Now, let me show you running it from a third-party tool. So I'm just running. So I basically copied the curl command here in just a regular old external tool website here, and well, my token ran out. This is always fun. But hopefully you were able to see the let me refresh my token and I can show you the outcome. So bear with me for 1 minute. I will show you the actual. That's what happens with the live demo. I just refreshed the token. I should have refreshed it for longer. Okay. So I am going to. I have the new token here. Okay. Let's see if this works. There you go. So I just updated my token, and I'm running this as a regular curl command, and I'm getting the same results from externals. The point is, the model is actually live and deployed, that I can have my application go against, and it has all the security and monitoring and things like OpenScale, by the way, that's what I was talking about. You can actually have OpenScale monitor the game's review scores, even though I don't know how trustworthiness and bias and explainability really matter in this case, but still, if you wanted, you could do that. Now, I'm not going to take credit for this. I'm going to say this up front, but this was I'm control PS4. Last thing I want to show you is the actual score of control on Metacritic, which is 82. Again, I am not going to take any credit for this. My model is not as sophisticated. The real model would require someone to go in and do a far deeper analysis. So no, I'm not saying that you start buying stock based on my models here that scores will be high for this game and you should buy more of this. So no, please don't do that. But I just wanted to show you sort of how easy and integrated it is for you to get started with your DB2 instance, and could be on premise, could be on cloud, all the way to actually training a model and having it deployed and potentially integrated with your application if you're so interested. So I'll stop there. Hopefully I'm still in time, and I'll hand it back to Martin and open up for questions.
Okay. Don't have any questions on the queue, so I guess we're okay there. But what I will do is I will retain or take back control, make myself a presenter, and I will at this point ask our famous last question. First of all, I'd like to thank you for a great presentation. It's always challenging with demos, and today I seem to be having little issues myself with my microphone being off and on at the wrong time. But, you know, if you do this long enough, you'll have some days where you just make some mistakes. So let me bring up that final question we always ask people, which is, did you learn anything today? I'll launch that question and then, oops, shit. I think I just said a bad word in because I inadvertently clicked the button twice. I need to figure out how I'm going to open that up and do it again, and I probably can't do that. So we're just going to assume that everybody learned something today, and just seems to be another indication that I'm thinking of something else, like my wife and I are having our anniversary today. So we'll leave it there, and let me put up the final screen here. Once again, thank you, Nidhi, Tanmay, and Holly for being on board with me today, particularly Tanmay. You did all the work, the heavy lifting. So with that, I'm going to cue the music. Wish everybody a great weekend, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for our next show. And please look for the replay and the other materials we provide on our replay blog later today. And everybody have a great weekend. Thank you so very much. Thanks again, Tanmay.